Let's see here. How do I do that again? Do that. Okay. All right. So now that I've had a minute to stop crying, ugly cry, I should say, going back to Mayo Clinic. So I went to the pediatric pain rehabilitation clinic, Rochester, Minnesota. The program's 3.5 weeks, and I was there for 4.5. And essentially what it is a mixture of physical therapy and occupational therapy and biofeedback and such. And they teach you what they call concepts in order to manage your chronic pain. And I went through it, and it was a really great thing. This was in January 2016, I should say. I apologize, I'm losing my train of thought. For crying out loud, I'm gonna blank. But, so throughout the program there, I was one of the worst cases out of the other kids that were participating. I was in physical therapy for most of my days. I got to the point where I didn't even have much of a lunch break. It was just physical therapy, eat something quick, and go right back to it. And it was, I had to work my butt off when I was down there. And it was, I think it was about the week before I was supposed to graduate the program. I still, at this point, had been going through it all and still did not have feeling in my leg at all. I couldn't use it. It was still lifeless. And I woke up January 26th, that day, and I was so mad. I was angry. I was so angry. I was angry at God. I was angry at my family. I was angry at everything. I wanted to go back home. I wanted to see my siblings. I wanted to see my horses. I wanted to see my cows, and I was just over this. And I went in, and I had a really crappy attitude that day. And I ended up slamming down my crutch at the time and was like, I'm going to walk today. And somehow I managed to get through the entire day with a lifeless leg, somewhat walking without a crutch. I'm not sure how I pulled that off. And towards the end of the day, it was towards the end of the day, and it ended up happening. It ended up turning back on, if you want to call it, and that mind-body connection happened, and I was able to feel and use my leg again somewhat. And I ended up leaving the program, walking out with just a limp after going in a wheelchair and crutches. So coming home, it was really great. Most people thought that was the end of the story. I went to Mayo and I came home magically better, and that's it. But that's honestly just the beginning. And so I came home, and took a long time. I just trying to get back to life and what it was. I had not walked for a year until going to Mayo previously, and trying to rebuild a person's life after that was hard. But I jumped right back into it and kept moving, and went back to starting horses and riding colts. And a lot of people know at this point, I was 12 when I became dead set on shoeing horses. And at that point, that's what I was going to do with my life. And so I ended up that fall coming home from Mayo, that November, I should say, I met with my mentor an hour away from where I was at, and he had a horseshoeing school. And I, told him I wanted to come, and it was settled that I was going to come that January. And so 2 weeks after my 16th birthday, I went and spent 8 weeks with my mentor in Miles City, and went through his horseshoeing school. And in that time, I was walking pretty decent. I had gained back a little bit of range of motion in my knee, enough to do stairs, enough to, function on a daily basis. And going through that was an interesting experience. I can't thank my mentor enough for the patience he had for me. It took me 4 hours to trim a horse just because trying to figure out how to get underneath these things with a leg that really doesn't want to bend and that's in pain it was hard, but I figured it out and just fell in love with it. And while I was at school, my mom CrossFit ended up coming into our town, and my mom had joined, and she was telling the coaches about me, and they thought that they would be able to help me, because at the time I was doing all right, walking pretty decent, whatever. But I was still pretty struggling to get around. And so at the time I came home from horseshoeing school and ended up joining this gym. And 2017, I did really pretty good. I was so proud. I worked my butt off, and I was still in pain, and I still was struggling every single day. But I ended up having this outlet of working out and shoeing horses, and I had gained back, because of this gym, I had gained back so much mobility. Like, there was things that I thought I'd never do again that I was doing. I was jumping when I hadn't jumped for nearly 2 years. I was lifting weights. I was squatting, things that I was told I might not ever do again. And I worked hard, and I did these Mayo concepts every day. And I was pretty proud that I got to the point where if you looked at me, you couldn't have no one would have been able to see that I was hurting or that I had any sort of issue. I thought that was how life was going to be from that point on. And of course there was enough bad days, and it started getting harder and harder to deal with that coming into 2018. I ended up hurting my back that spring of 2018, and that really pushed me back hard. Being out of work that long and not being able to move really took a toll on my leg. And CRPS ended up starting to take over, and walking had become increasingly difficult. I ended up losing more range of motion again, because that's what CRPS likes to do. It likes to take your range of motion when I already didn't have full range of motion because of the surgery. And it was just getting really hard to control it and stay on top of it. And it was coming into the fall and winter 2018 into the winter of this last winter here, 2019. The cold hit me, and I have flared like I have never flared in the last 5 years. From this last Christmas, I could not hardly walk until about May. It was bad. It was so bad. My knee has completely locked up again. And the symptoms have been progressively getting worse. It's continuing to deteriorate. When I try to bend my knee, it feels like glass is in it. I can't even stand on it anymore. I can't bear weight on it by itself anymore. So this winter, it was really hopeless to have. I continued to do these concepts that Mayo taught me, and it wasn't doing anything. It wasn't fixing it like it was supposed to. It wasn't. I wasn't able to get on top of it like I always used to be able to. CRPS continued to win in spite of my efforts, and but I kept moving. It's one thing about me. I'm really stupidly stubborn, and I just won a scholarship to go to another horseshoeing school in Colorado. This that I just got done with, but at the time it was supposed to be in the summer, and that was my goal. I was going to make it to this school, and I was gonna do it. And so I worked my butt off this winter trying to continue to get motion back to my avail, and trying to stay on top of it. But I hit some really low spots again this winter. I mean, it was really hard, really freaking hard. And sorry. It's hard to keep going and just to keep trying to fight something that just doesn't want to, doesn't want to give in even just a bit. I just killed myself trying to walk for hours in my house this last winter to just try to get on top of it, and to try to start getting it to calm down, and just to no avail. So, but once it was about June this year, I finally started. Finally, after since freaking December, it started letting up. I think it was probably the warm weather, and I started feeling a little bit better. And right before I went down to Penrose for the school, I was doing pretty good. I was really tickled. I was finally walking a lot better, was looking a lot better, was feeling a lot better. And so I went down, and so excited to have this horseshoeing school opportunity. I mean, it was just absolutely wonderful. Get to go spend 8 weeks learning more about something that I absolutely love. And so I went down there and was doing awesome, was having just the time of my life. And week 3, I flared. I woke up and I couldn't hardly freaking walk. And that just was such a punch in the face. I mean, really and truly. I looked and felt like crap the entire time I was down there from that point on. And it was so frustrating to me. I mean, I don't understand what happened at that point that it decided to do that. And was pretty depressing going down there and having to stop early when you were working forging because you just couldn't stand on the concrete anymore, and not being able to sleep. And it's been really freaking hard since that point on. And even after graduating school, I'm moving a little bit better, but it's with this cold weather coming in, it's just a matter of time before it decides to flare its evilness again. So it's been a hard year. It really has been. And I've had a lot of people this year ask about it, and it's been really, really hard for me to share, just because it's really hard for me to acknowledge myself most days that this is happening. And it's really hard when you've tried so hard to not show it and try to be strong, and you can't do it anymore. I mean, I've gotten to the point where when I say I can't do something anymore, such as bend my knee, I mean I can't. It's not gonna happen. I can't. So, that's been this year anyway. But, while I was down in school, this is where the pertinent part of the story is, my folks ended up coming in contact with a pastor in Dickinson, North Dakota. And while they were visiting, I guess I came up in conversation, and he ended up, unlike most people, when you say, oh yeah, she has CRPS, most people, eyes glaze over, oh, that's a bummer, we're so sorry to hear that, and move on to a different conversation. But his eyes lit up, and he got super excited and told my mom and dad about how his good friends, she had CRPS. But she went to Italy, and she got healed, and she's pain-free now. And at the time, my mom threw her head back laughing and said, well, A, Italy, that's not possible, and B, there's no way she's pain-free, that or she never had CRPS, because there's not a cure for CRPS. You don't get healed from it. And my mom ended up talking more about it and ended up getting in contact with these people. And sure enough, she had CRPS, but she went to Italy and ended up getting some infusions, and I can't remember the name of the drug. And she is now completely pain and symptom free. And now my folks, I've never heard of this treatment in Italy, and I'd never heard of it. And I have searched everything. My family has searched everything. We have tried everything. And when this came up, my mom, she looked into it. So she talked to more people that went through this, that had CRPS. And there is not a person yet she has talked to that has not experienced a substantial amount of relief. So she ended up, and I had no idea about this. I was just trucking along at school. She ended up contacting the Italian doctors, and they gave me a 50 to 80% chance of full relief. Something that I have never heard before. I was told there was no hope. And, so they ended up telling me about it. And, of course, this was my reaction. And, so we ended up, that's where I'm at now. We ended up, submitting all of that they wanted. They wanted, a bunch of labs done and such. And I just found out today that I was accepted into this treatment program. And I can be scheduled within 2 to 3 weeks, after we hear back about that, when's the soonest they can have me. And, so that's kind of why I'm on tonight, because this could change my life if it works. I mean, even if it just gives me 20% relief, I mean, I can't imagine that, because this is, CRPS. It's, what it is it's a central nervous system disorder. It's something that it takes the nerves, and it takes something that happened, in my case it was a knee dislocation, and it should not have hurt that bad, but what is constantly going on in my body is it's sending signals that, and this is the way I describe it, it feels like there is a knife in my knee. My knee feels like it's on fire. When it's bad, it shoots up and down my entire leg, and it really gets to the point where I'm not suicidal at any given point, but you know what? It is really, really hard to want to live when it gets to that point that it is a 10. And I know that sounds crazy to so many people, but On a daily basis, it's an 8, and when it's bad, it's a 10. And I have lived this way. March will make it 5 years. And I honestly, I've not heard of anything until this treatment deal, and that is my hope. That is my biggest hope right now. Because honestly, I don't, without, this is my best shot. Trying to be realistic with myself this year has been really hard, because I don't know where I'll be at in the next 2 to 3 years, which is really hard to say when you're 18 and all you want to go do is work and shoe horses, and you can barely sit down on the toilet or lift your leg in and out of the shower. And it's been really hard to be real with myself that I might not be able to do that in the next few years. And I've had to really, really pray that I can accept that if that's the case. But right now, I have the hope of remission, to be pain-free, to be symptom-free. And so that's why I'm coming on and not just sharing my story and the struggles that I face every day that so many people don't know. Because I don't want pity. I don't need that. But understanding and support is great, because it's a silent battle that I've been fighting. But I can't fight it anymore by myself. I can't do it by myself anymore. I can't be the strong one anymore. And so that's why I'm asking for support. Italy, the treatment and everything will cost about $25,000. And I'm coming here and humbling myself and asking that you all would help me. My church family, my ELPO family, my friends, my clients, the people I know, the people that I love. I'm having to swallow my pride and ask for help. Because this is my shot. This is my best shot. And I'm really praying, and I'm really gonna go in believing that this is gonna work. And I've heard from what I've been told, some people can experience symptom relief as fast as a few months out. Sometimes it takes a year. Everyone's different, but almost everyone that has gone through this has received some sort of relief. And it would just be an absolute miracle for me to even just have some of that taken away. Because it's, like I said, it's been the absolute worst this year that it has ever been. And it just depresses me to think about what next year, the year after, would be like. And so yes, that's my story in a nutshell. That's what it is. I'm not afraid to answer any questions about it. I'm a pretty open book. And I just, I want to live my life. I want to keep moving, and I guess regardless of what happens, I'm gonna keep trying to keep going. But this is where I'm at, and this is what I'm asking, and this is what I'm pleading with my friends and family, is to please help me get to Italy. Please. That's truly all I can say. But thank you for watching, and God bless you all. I really appreciate it. I apologize for the ugly cry. I don't really talk about this ever, and it tends to be, this is what it looks like when I try to talk about it. So anyway, but thank you all. Have a wonderful night. God bless.